Good morning, students. This is my first lecture in your third semester. Today I am going to start about the paper 3 and unit 1. Unit 1 is 13C NMR spectroscopy. However, it is paper 3, but the topic is common. 13C NMR spectroscopy, first unit is common for both MSc Organic Chemistry as well as MSc Pharmaceutical Chemistry. Now in your previous semester, that is semester 1 and semester 2, you have studied about the proton NMR spectroscopy in both the semesters. Now in your third semester, there is a 13C NMR included in the first chapter, and second unit of the same paper consists of 2D NMR spectroscopy and optical rotatory dispersion spectroscopy. For MSc Organic Chemistry students, paper unit 1 is 13C NMR spectroscopy, unit 2 is 2D NMR and ORD spectroscopy. For MSc Pharmaceutical Chemistry students of the same paper, where the unit 1 consisting 13C NMR spectroscopy as well as 2D NMR spectroscopy. So for MSc Pharma Chemistry students, the two topics were included in only one unit, whereas for Organic Chemistry student, there is a separate units for 13C NMR and 2D NMR spectroscopy. Now I am going to start a 13C NMR spectroscopy. 13C NMR spectroscopy. NMR spectroscopy. Now, you all are aware well about the principle of 13C NMR spectroscopy. Now I am going to discuss about introduction. Introductory part of 13C NMR spectroscopy. The most significant nuclei, that is the most significant spin-active nuclei other than proton present in an organic molecule is belonging to a nuclei of carbon. A nuclei of carbon, that is a nuclei of first heavier isotope of carbon, that is 13C. That is 13C, carbon first isotope, where similar to proton, its nuclear spin quantum number, that is I is equal to either plus or minus half. So the most significant nuclei other than proton present in an organic molecule belongs to the nuclei of first heavier isotope of carbon, that is 13C, with its nuclear spin quantum number, that is I is equal to either plus half or minus half. So it is a spin active nuclei. Similar to proton, the carbon nuclei is also spin active. Why it is spin active? Because its overall nuclear spin quantum number will be plus or minus 1 by 2. So that it is spin active. So that it is a spin active. Therefore, under appropriate conditions, of external magnetic field, similar to proton, the carbon 13 carbon nuclei will also generate the NMR spectrum, called as 13C NMR spectrum. So under appropriate, this is carbon nuclei, under appropriate conditions of external magnetic field, that is H0, similar to proton nuclei, the carbon 13 nuclei will also generate the spectrum, which is called as 13C NMR spectrum. 13C NMR spectrum, or it is also called as carbon magnetic resonance spectrum, that is CMR. In an abbreviated form, it may also called as carbon magnetic resonance spectrum. Is it clear? So here the spectrum will be generated from the nuclei of carbon. Therefore, it is called as 13C NMR spectrum. Now, the principle involved in a carbon NMR spectrum spectroscopy is quite similar to that involved in proton NMR spectrum. The principle, whatever the principle as well as the method which we are adopted for its recording is quite similar to that involved, to that principle as well as recording method involved for the proton NMR spectrum. For example, as we discussed that where the carbon, say this is nuclei of carbon nuclei, because of its spin activeness, so it is a spin active where it spins, the nuclei spins around its vertical axis. This is vertical axis along with the electron cloud which is circulated around the nuclei to generate certain amount of secondary magnetic field. So this is secondary magnetic field. It is a spin active nuclei as its I is equal to plus or minus 1 by 2. Is it clear? Now when we apply certain amount of external magnetic field, where this is H0, when we apply certain amount of external magnetic field, now before application of external magnetic field, this spin active nuclei has degenerated energy state of plus or minus 1 by 2, plus or minus 1 by 2. When we apply certain amount of external magnetic field, what happens? The degenerated energy state of nuclei will be split into energy levels according to 2i plus 1 rule. 2i plus 1 rule. When external magnetic field is applied to the spinning nuclei, according to the 2i plus 1 rule, its degenerated energy state will be split into energy level, where I is equal to spin quantum number of nuclei under study. Here this is the carbon nuclei where its I value is 1 by 2. So 2 into 1 by 2 plus 1 become 2 energy levels. How many energy levels? Only 2 energy levels are produced, which is similar, quite similar to proton. This is lower energy level, this is higher energy level, where I is equal to minus of for a nuclei under lower energy level and I is equal to plus of for a nuclei under higher energy level. Is it clear? Now, when we provide radio frequency radiation in the NMR spectroscopy, this all depends upon the absorption of radio frequency radiation, so that under appropriate conditions of external magnetic field, the nuclei absorbed radio frequency radiation to be undergo transition from lower spin state to the higher spin state. This is transition. This is transition, so that after absorption of radio frequency radiation by the nuclei, which undergo a spin transition from its lower spin state to the higher spin state, or lower energy level to higher energy level. So because of absorption of radio frequency energy, where the nuclei is able to generate its NMR spectrum. Its NMR spectrum. Is it clear? Now this is the spectrum generated from which nuclei? It generated from the carbon nuclei, hence it is called as carbon NMR spectrum or CMR spectrum. Now this is the principle which is quite similar to the principle involved in the proton NMR, or either of fluorine NMR or either of phosphorus NMR, whatever it may be, which we are already discussed in the second semester and first semester in detail. Is it clear? Now in brief, so whatever the principle involved in the NMR spectrum, that is C13 NMR spectrum, will be the quite to that involved, to the principle that involved in the proton NMR spectrum. Now let us study what are the principles involved. Number one, the first principle of NMR, where absorption frequency is equal to gamma H0 divided by 2 pi. This is the first principle. Now second principle, absorption frequency is equal to 2 mu H0 divided by H. Now these are the two principles which we have derived in the first semester of proton NMR spectroscopy. Now these are the two principles are applicable to the carbon nuclei also, where nu is equal to absorption frequency, where gamma is equal to gyromagnetic ratio of a nuclei under study, where H0 is equal to external magnet strength of external magnetic field which we are applied to the spinning nuclei. 2 pi will be the constant. Now coming to the second principle, nu is equal to absorption frequency, where nu is equal to the secondary magnetic field produced by the spinning nuclei, a spin active nuclei due to its spin. Now again H0 is the strength of applied magnetic field which we are applied to spinning nuclei in order to split its degenerated energy state into the required energy levels according to 2i+1 rule. Now H divided by H will be the Planck constant. Is it clear? For example, let us apply these two principles, say for proton. Suppose if we are studying about the proton nature, proton nuclei, then we can calculate the proton absorption frequency. Proton absorption frequency is equal to the gyromagnetic ratio of proton nuclei, H0 applied to proton nuclei divided by 2 pi. Then we can calculate some x ppm for proton. Is it clear? Now with the second principle, let us exercise. Absorption frequency of proton nuclei is equal to 2 into secondary magnetic field produced by proton, absorption frequency applied to carbon divided by H. So we will get again x ppm. Is it clear? So in this way we can calculate absorption frequencies of a proton. Let us apply these two principles to the carbon. Now absorption, if the nuclei is carbon, then absorption frequency of carbon is equal to gyromagnetic ratio of carbon, gamma value of carbon, external magnetic field applied to carbon divided by 2 pi. You will get some value, say a ppm, some a ppm. Is it clear? Now coming to the second principle application, whether the second principle is applicable to the C13 or not. Now absorption frequency of carbon is equal to secondary magnetic field produced by 2 into secondary magnetic field produced by carbon and external field, strength of external magnetic field applied to carbon divided by Planck constant. So we will get some a ppm. Is it clear? So this suggested that the principle, both the principles are also applicable to carbon nuclei. Similar to proton, these are applicable to carbon nuclei. Is it clear? So principle involved in the carbon NMR spectroscopy is quite similar to that involved in the proton NMR spectroscopy. And as well as whatever the method we adopted for recording of carbon NMR spectroscopy is also similar to that adopted in the proton NMR spectroscopy. What is the method we used for the recording of proton NMR? Pulse Fourier transformation, PFT method. PFT method will be the method is used for the proton NMR, is used for the proton NMR. So similar to proton, again the PFT technique is used for the recording of carbon, so that this indicated principle as well as method of recording are similar to that involved in the proton NMR spectroscopy. Is it clear? Now however, the recording of C13 NMR spectrum is quite similar to that of proton NMR spectroscopy, but recording of carbon NMR spectroscopy is highly difficult when compared with the proton NMR. However, method is the same, but recording of CMR spectroscopy is highly difficult when compared with the proton NMR spectroscopy, because because the natural abundancy of proton is almost 99.99%. Natural abundancy of proton is almost, this is proton, is almost 99.9%, whereas the natural abundancy of the carbon nuclei, however spin active, but its natural abundancy is only 1.11%. Its natural abundancy will be 1.11%. So you can observe this is the difference. Both are spin active nuclei, but naturally occurring proton abundancy is 99.9%. So whatever the protons existed in any molecule belongs to spin active. Is it clear? Now whereas the carbon natural abundancy is only 1.11%. What it's suggesting? Whatever the carbons, not all the carbons existed in the organic molecule are not belongs to 13C. Is it clear? Are you following? The natural abundancy is only 1.11%. So that whatever the carbons present or existed in any organic molecule are all or not belongs to 13C. Say for example, for easy to understood, if we take one organic molecule which consisting of 100 carbons, how many carbons belongs to, how many nuclei of carbons belongs to C13? Only one, because its natural abundancy is only 1.11%. Suppose if you take a molecule with 200 carbons, how many carbons probability is there? Only 2 carbons may be 13C. The remaining all carbons belongs to C12, 12C, which are spin inactive. 12C nuclei spin inactive. Is it clear? So recording of carbon NMR spectrum is highly difficult because of its low natural abundancy. Its natural abundancy is very low, that is only 1.11%. So that in any molecule there is a low probability of having 13C nuclei, that is spin active carbon nuclei, is very low. Then how can we record a signal from every carbon present in a molecule? That is, every carbon signal is recorded by enriching each and every carbon with a C13 atom. This process is difficult, hence its recording is also difficult. Now, coming to the sensitivity. The sensitivity of carbon nuclei, carbon NMR, is very low. Recording is different. Coming to the sensitivity. The sensitivity of carbon nuclei towards the nuclear magnetic resonance, that is towards the NMR, is very low when compared to proton, because the gyromagnetic ratio, gamma value of proton is high, whereas the gamma value of carbon is low. Because of its low gamma value, the sensitivity of carbon nuclei towards NMR is very low. That is, when coming to the sensitivity of carbon nuclei, a proton sensitivity, proton gamma value is high, whereas carbon gamma value is low. Carbon gamma value is low. Now, because of high gamma value, the sensitivity of proton nuclei towards NMR is also high. Now, whereas carbon gamma value is very low, therefore the carbon nuclei sensitivity towards the NMR is also low. NMR is also low. So carbon sensitivity is 1/4 to that of proton sensitivity. Carbon sensitivity is almost 1/4 to that the sensitivity of proton nuclei. Is it clear? So Together, the low natural bond density of carbon and low gyromagnetic ratio, low gamma value of carbon, make it as low sensitive towards the NMR spectrum. Therefore, its recording is also becoming a difficult. So this is about introduction to C13 NMR spectrum. Now coming to its presentation. So carbon NMR spectrum is presented again similar to proton presentation, where the absorption frequencies are plotted on x-axis and the intensity of absorption is plotted on y-axis. So absorption frequencies of carbon nuclei will also measured in a delta in ppm unit. Delta in ppm unit. For the reference, again TMS will be chosen where its absorption is 0.0. So it is plotted as a function of absorption frequency of each and every carbon of molecule with respect to the intensity of each and every carbon present in an organic molecule on y-axis. Similar to proton, it is presented as a function of absorption frequency in terms of delta in ppm, measuring in the ppm units versus intensity of absorption. So we have some signals like this. Is it clear? So this is about presentation. So everything is quite similar. There is a difference only in the absorption frequency. The absorption frequencies of proton is different from the absorption frequency of carbon nuclei, as it is differing with respect to electron density and etc. etc. Therefore, observe. So everything is quite similar between proton and carbon. The only difference is the absorption frequency of proton is high, whereas carbon absorption frequency is towards downfield. So carbon absorption frequencies always appear at the downfield value when compared with the proton. Remaining presentation part will be the same. Now coming to the information what we are up to, why we are going to study, why we should study the carbon NMR spectrum, because of getting some information from the carbon magnetic resonance spectroscopy information. Now much more same kind of information is obtained from carbon NMR spectroscopy that which obtained from proton NMR spectroscopy. What kind of information we obtained from proton? That is regarding a skeleton. So the carbon NMR, the information obtained from the carbon NMR spectrum is quite similar to that information obtained from proton regarding the carbon skeleton. Now in proton NMR spectroscopy, the carbon skeleton is obtained by indirect method, where we have studied the nature and number of protons. Based on the nature and number of proton, we are constructed the carbon skeleton for a molecule without study of any carbon nature in the proton NMR spectra. A simple study regarding the nature and number of a proton, indirectly we constructed a carbon skeleton for a molecule. Whereas in the carbon NMR spectrum, again the skeleton is obtained, but it is by direct method, where in this technique we are studying about the nature of carbon and number of carbon. So by the study of nature and number of carbon, we can able to construct the carbon skeleton. So in both techniques, finally we got a skeleton of a molecule. What is the difference? where in the first technique, that is proton technique, by the study of proton nature and number of proton, we are able to construct a carbon skeleton. Here, by the study of carbon nature and number of carbons directly, we can construct the carbon skeleton. However, some kind of important informations may be obtained from C13 NMR spectrum. Let us discuss what kind of information we can extract from the molecular geometry by the C13 NMR spectrum. Number one. Now we are studying about information getting from C13 NMR. So first information. The number of signals in the C13 NMR spectrum will be equal to number of carbons present in a molecule, or sometimes number of equivalent carbon sets of equivalent carbons present. Are you following? Number of signals of C13 NMR spectrum indicated the number of carbons or the number of equivalent sets of carbons. Example, you take N-propyl chloride, CH3, CH2, Cl, CH3, CH2, Cl, where the CH3 carbon is high electron density, so this is A. The last carbon is low electron density in nature because of adjacent chlorine, so this becomes C. The middle carbon is moderately associated electron density, so it falls in between A and C, so this is B. Carbon A, carbon B, carbon C. Its 13C NMR spectrum consists of signal 1, signal 2, signal 3, signal A, signal B, signal C. The first signal corresponding to CH3 carbon, second signal corresponds to a middle CH2 carbon, the third signal corresponding to terminal CH2Cl carbon. Is it clear? How many signals are there? 3 signals. Molecule is invisible. We are not able to see the molecule. So we have only a spectra. 1 signal, 2 signal, 3 signals. So 3 signals indicated. 3 carbons may be present. 3 signals, 3 carbons. 3 signals and 3 carbons. Now, R. The number of signals sometimes may be related to number of sets of equivalent carbons. You take CH3, CH3, CH, Cl, isopropyl chloride, where the 2 CH3 carbons are equivalent with respect to its chemical nature as well as magnetic nature. So it becomes A and A. These two are same, A carbon and A carbon. The CH carbon is different, that is non-equivalent from the first 2 CH3 carbons. So this becomes B. So A carbon and B carbon. Now you see, signal 1 for A carbon, signal B, second signal for B carbon. So this is C13 NMR spectrum of isopropyl chloride, which consisting of only 2 signals. One corresponds to 2 CH3 carbons, the other corresponds to 1 methyl carbon. Is it clear? Now, however, the molecule consisting of 3 carbons, but the signals are only 2. Why? Because the 2 carbons are similar. CH3 2 carbons are equivalent, so that equivalent set of carbons appear with 1 signal, whereas CH carbon is different from the CH3, so it appears as second signal, that is B signal. So number of signals may be related sometimes with number of carbons or number of sets of equivalent carbons. So this is the first information. So based on the number of signals, we can get some information how many carbons may be present or how many sets of carbons may be present in our molecule. This is first information. Now, Now coming to second information. Now, in a proton NMR spectroscopy, we observed that a proton nuclei coupled with another proton nuclei, a proton nuclei coupled with another proton nuclei, where the nuclei involved in the coupling belongs to the same similar atom, hence called as homonuclear couplings. So due to homonuclear coupling or due to spin-spin coupling, each and every set of proton signal will be appear as multiplet, as multiplet according to n+1 rule. Are you following? So in the proton NMR spectroscopy, a set of proton coupled with its another set of proton which is non-equivalent, called as spin-spin coupling, where the nuclei involved in the coupling belongs to similar atom, called as homonuclear coupling. So whatever it may be. So due to spin-spin coupling, proton signal is split into multiplet, maybe doublet, maybe triplet, maybe quartet, or maybe multiplet, quintet, sextet, or heptet. Similar to proton, in the C13 NMR spectrum, a carbon nuclear spin is able to couple with a proton nuclear spin. In the protons are coupled. So similar to that, a carbon NMR spectrum where a carbon nuclei spin is able to couple with the hydrogen nuclei, that is proton nuclear spin. Is it clear? That is, in this technique, the nuclei involved in the spin coupling belongs to dissimilar atoms. One belongs to carbon, the other belongs to proton, called as heteronuclear coupling. That is homonuclear coupling. Here it is heteronuclear coupling. So whatever it may be, either homonuclear coupling or heteronuclear coupling, both kind of coupling interactions resulted in multiplet signals from the nuclei. So in the same way, in the C13 NMR spectroscopy, due to the coupling of carbon nuclei with proton, each and every carbon signal is also split into multiplet according to n+1 rule. According to n+1 rule, where n is equal to number of protons attached with each carbon. In the proton NMR spectrum, where n is equal to number of adjacent hydrogens to which the first set coupled to be appear as a multiplet. But in the C13 NMR spectroscopy, again every carbon signal is appear as a multiplet according to n+1 rule, where n is equal to number of hydrogens directly attached with each carbon. In that way, according to n+1 rule, a CH3 carbon, a carbon attached by 3 hydrogens signal appear as quartet. CH3 carbon appear as quartet. According to n+1 rule, CH3 carbon appear as quartet, 1 plus 3 quartet. CH2 carbon appear as a triplet. CH carbon appear as doublet. A carbon without hydrogen always appear as singlet. Are you following? So due to coupling of carbon nuclei, a proton nuclei, a carbon signal will be split into multiplet according to n+1 rule, where n is equal to number of hydrogen attached to which a carbon coupled. Now here 3 hydrogens are attached for CH3 carbon, so that a carbon is able to couple with its 3 hydrogen. According to n+1 rule, its signal become appear as a quartet. Similarly, CH2 carbon appear as a triplet and CH carbon appear as a doublet. A carbon, because it has only one hydrogen, 1 plus 1 doublet. 1 plus 2 triplet, 1 plus 3 quartet. Now a carbon without hydrogen always appear as a singlet because there is no hydrogen. It is not able to couple with any kind of hydrogen. Hence it always appear as a singlet. Is it clear? So similar to proton, a spin-spin coupling interactions are also possible in carbon NMR spectrum, where the carbon is able to couple with a proton nuclear spin, and its signal will be appear as a multiplet, as quartet, triplet, doublet and singlet, just now we discussed. So based on the multiplicity signal, we can identify how many hydrogens. Again, we are unable to see the molecule. We have only spectrum, which recorded with a spin coupling with proton nuclei. So based on the multiplicity of each and every carbon in the spectrum, we can able to identify number of hydrogens attached with each carbon. In that way, we can able to identify how many CH3 carbons, how many CH2 carbons, how many CH carbon, how many carbons without hydrogen. This is just based on a multiplicity of a signal. Is it clear?